No one has recorded? Okay, fine.
Yeah, just like
So I want to share with you Parashat Devarim, upcoming right now. We have, of course, the beginning of Moshe Rabbeinu talking to Klal Yisrael. It's a Sifro Shel Moshe, basically, written in the language of Moshe Rabbeinu. And in it, Moshe Rabbeinu gives Harsh Tochacha Ele Advarim Asher Diber Moshe, and Chazal say Dibur is always Lashon Kasher, because he basically was giving them Tochacha. He was giving them Musar, chastising them for all the mishaps that they've had in the past 40 years, starting already from Egypt, coming along the way in the Midbar for 40 years. And all of them are hinted to by the words that he uses. Di Zahav. There's no place as Di Zahav. He's referring to Egel Zahav that he made. And every single word that he mentions there basically is a reference to one of the mishaps, one of the averot that they did in the course of the past 4 decades that they were with him. Now, the question is, why don't you just say it? And the answer is, when you give tochacha to someone, it has to be, the point of tochacha is not that you are chastising, giving them harsh musar in a way that they turn color and they turn white and red and all the different colors and embarrassed. That's not the point of tochacha. The point of tochacha really depends on the recipient of the tochacha. And here, Klal Yisrael were in a higher madrega, and Moshe Rabbeinu just gave little tiny hints, and that was enough to tell them that, you see, this is the history that we've gone through, and that was considered the tochacha for them. The Chazon Ish writes in Yoredah in Siman Bet, says nowadays you're incapable of giving tochacha, because tochacha has to come from a place of love and deep care. And if you are involved anything of yourself with it, then the tochacha becomes pasul. He doesn't say it in these words, but that's basically the Chazon Ish's chidush, that we cannot give tochacha nowadays so easily. Now others disagree with Chazon Ish, say nowadays achshudari, the generation has become better. People really want to learn, want to listen, want to know what's wrong with their things. But the core concept that Chazon Ish says is very much alive and kicking. It's very true. That tochacha has to come from a place of love, and it has to be measured exactly based on the recipient of tochacha. You see, Moshe Rabbeinu here does not say you sin. Right beforehand, he felt that there was need for saying it. It says in this week's parasha that we just had, Tarbut Anashim Hataim, he said it very directly to them because he felt it was needed. But in this coming parasha, he just hints, subtle hints, talking to Klal Yisrael. After he was punished by Mem Meribah, at least 12 different shitas, what exactly the sin of Moshe Rabbeinu was. But here is a beautiful, beautiful Malbim. So because he said to them, Shim'una Hamorim, he called them Hamorim, people who are rebellious. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not let it go. He said, you call my people rebellious, you call them Hamorim, I'm not letting you down. You're not going to enter Eretz Yisrael because of that. Because nobody disrespects Israel and gets away unscathed. And that's something to think about when you have the obligation of standing up for the Torah. And again, we're entering a period of 9 days, a period of Tochacha, a period that HaKadosh Baruch Hu basically has set these days for thinking, for introspection of Tochacha, basically. It's the days of Tochacha. But nevertheless, you have to be mindful of the fact that Tochacha has to come with certain sensitivity. See, by Yaakov Avinu, Chazal say he waited his entire life and he gave Tochacha only at the end of his life. Moshe Rabbeinu, the same thing. He waited his whole career. Can you imagine you're holding something in for decades and decades because you want to say it in a sensitive moment when you know it's going to be heard. And if a person says something and it's not heard, then you just have made it worse for the recipient. This, the Radak says this in Melachim, in Perek Yutet. There is, right after what the story that we have in Perek Yutet is Eliyahu Bahar Carmel, the amazing story of the face-off of Eliyahu Navi with all of the Nevi'ei HaBaal, 400 Nevi'ei HaBaal. We've mentioned this story before. And people saying, Hashem hu Elokim, Hashem hu Elokim. Then Eliyahu Navi was threatened by Izebel. He runs away to this cave. HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaks to him to appoint a successor under himself and appoint a king, Yehu. And he says, is going to, those sinners that are going to not be killed by Yehu's sword will be killed by Elisha, your successor, the Navi. So Radak says, wait a second. Elisha and Navi didn't know even which side you take the sword from. How is Elisha going to kill people? So says the Radak, such powerful words. He says, you know why? Because when they're in the vicinity of Elisha and Navi, and he gives them to Chacha, if they don't listen, then Yisurim are going to come upon them and they're going to die. Not that he's going to kill them, but when he tells them something and they don't listen, that by itself is a greater sin that's going to bring about their demise. That's scary, because what it means is, now that you know, if you told somebody something to do properly, give them to Chacha, but he didn't give them to Chacha properly. Now the guy is not going to listen, because it wasn't delivered properly. Now he's going to be in a worse situation, worse off than what he was before even. So hence the sensitivity that the person has to have when it comes to the concept of tochacha. We take it lightly often, say, okay, we just don't say anything. That's also not correct. Every person has arvut. The concept of arvut is as real as you could have with any other halachic parameter or halachic area. To the degree that you could say an extra bracha, which normally speaking, according to Rambam, according to Maran Shcharuch, whose psakim we follow, would be an isur deoraita, a biblical transgression, as Maran paskins in Siman Reish Vav. Rambam holds a bracha shena slicha is tantamount to a bracha lebatala. So how is it that I just said kiddush on Friday night, and I have a guest that doesn't know how to say kiddush? I say kiddush for him. I say the bracha that I just said 30 seconds ago, I say it again. Unnecessary bracha. The answer is it's not unnecessary, because if he hasn't said it, I haven't fulfilled my mitzvah of kiddush yet, because we're bound together. Every single Jew. We spoke on Shabbat about Bet Yisrael versus Bnei Yisrael. We became a family. And a family is responsible for each other. And that's something important in halachic. Again, what Rabban writes, if you have an etrog and lulav, if you want to make it very dramatic, you can imagine to yourself that you bought the most expensive set of arba minim that go for thousands of dollars. And you're looking at your beautiful etrog that you just purchased for $2,000. And someone passing by, imagine if you're in a rest stop somewhere between New York and New Jersey Turnpike, and the guy next to you says, what a beautiful etrog you have, esrog. And you say, you're Jewish? He says, yeah, but I haven't taken a etrog for 30 years. I remember my father used to buy it from his Erev Sukkot. There's no way he lives in Yehopitzville somewhere in the middle of nowhere. There's no way of getting a etrog and lulav, but you're Baruch Hashem in a full community. You could borrow matana al-mal la'achzir from one of your friends in the shul. And he says, I wish I had lulav and etrog. I would shake it. I haven't done this for 30 years. We have to give it to him. He says, well, I can't pay. I have no money to pay. So you have to give it to him as a gift. You'll borrow from someone else because you could be mekayem the mitzvah. Why? Because Kol Yisrael Arabim Zeh Lazeh. Because you're bound to each other. So mitzvah tochacha comes as the outcome of that as well. We have the responsibility of seeing to it that people learn, seeing to it that people keep the Torah. They can't keep the Torah if they're not learning. So encouragement of coming to shiur, coming to learning, doing the mitzvah, doing it properly is course, our obligation. But now it becomes very difficult because you can't mess up. And it's something important. There's no answer to say, okay, I'm just not going to say anything. Well, I don't buy into your business. You don't, I live my life. The libertarian way does not really work for the Jewish community in that sense. But at the same time, if you say it in an improper way, then you're on a bigger hook. So that becomes the delicate balance. Like many things in life, this is a delicate balance of attaining proper balance of how to say things, how to be a role model, and yet be able to actively increase Kavod Shamayim by encouraging other people to doing the mitzvah. We think the kiruv is for kiruv experts. Some aspects of it maybe, but the greatest single kiruv, the greatest single tochacha is when people are interconnected and they see that other people are learning, other people are doing, and you encourage them mindfully to want to do more, to want to learn more, to want to finish Mishnayot, to want to finish Masechtas, eventually finish Shas. Those things are things that the people have to encourage others in the community because it's part of our mitzvah of Israel Arabim Zebasa. We're all interconnected. I'll give you an example that just happened, and it scares me. It scares me. Walking on Shabbat from a place that I went to wish someone Mazal Tov and Kiddush in a shul up east or west. And on the way back, just bumped into somebody. I told him about Amud Yomi. Just a minute conversation. I told him, I think you should come. We're holding in the Madriga that now you have to step it up and start a daily learning. This doctor, upstanding person in the community. I said, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot for 1 week. And ever since, he's been coming and he says he's changed his life. He says, I don't know what would have happened if we never bumped into each other on Shabbat. But that for me is heartwarming, but it's more so scary. Because how many other people can we affect by simple things like that, of encouragement? Tochacha does not have to be a harsh, tochacha means taking responsibility for other people. And that's exactly what you see from the Ketuvim that we have had. The greatest single tochacha that Chazal say, oy lanu miyomadin, oy lanu miyom tochacha is what? When Yosef HaTzadik introduced himself to his brothers after 20 plus years. And he says, Ani Yosef, how would I be high? And Chazal look at this pasuk and say, everyone was crying when they heard this. Chacham Obadia would cry every year when he would read this pasuk. Well, what's the tochacha? He said nothing. Must be the tochacha does not mean you're giving harsh musar. It's just confrontation with the reality of life. That's what it is. They faced their decision that they made 20 years prior, and they realized that they had made a mistake. That's all. That's the greatest tochacha. Yosef HaTzadik did it in the most gentle of ways, by hugging them and kissing them afterwards, making them comfortable. He says, you didn't do it, Hashem did it, so on and so forth. But that's the greatest tochacha. He was crying, not them. But that was considered giving tochacha. Or by Yitzchak Avinu. Yitzchak Avinu says, when he realized that it was Yaakov whom he had blessed, not Esav, he trembled. Well, what trembled? He was afraid that Esav is going to kill him? No. He would never do that. He would have because he realized that his whole life he had made a mistake thinking that Esav is the better one. Because now Hashem had it happen in this way that Yaakov got the bracha. And that's why he said, Gam Baruch Yeh. I'm not changing it. Hashem wanted him to get the bracha. Gam Baruch Yeh. I am blessing deliberately now that person being Yaakov Avinu. So what's the charada then? The charada is he realized he faced his mistake in life. That's tochacha, that's all. It could be done in a gentle way, it could be done in the most pleasant of ways, but that's really, for us, on the one hand, the responsibility that we have of tochacha, on the other hand, the realization of what Chazon Ish says that's so difficult, because it has to come from a heart that really loves and cares about the other people. So really, in this generation, most of the time, it happens to only be effective in a format of encouragement, of more learning, of more doing of mitzvot. B'ezrat Hashem, should always zocher to that. Amen. Rabbi Haran